What's up, Cortland? Ruthie?
JB, what's up, man?
How y'all doing?
How you feeling today?
Okay. You're in orbit right now, right?
I am in the orbit. That's why we got Ruthie doing the Saturday scuba tip.
I hear you. Where you at for real, physically?
I'm in the Twin Cities. I'm in Minnesota.
Oh wow. Okay.
You know?
I
Ruthie.
be doing the scuba tip because you pay me so much.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Hey, you know mine.
Need to earn your keep.
You know, I'm telling you, I'm retiring. This is the reason why. Can't get no
Mhm.
cooperation, then I got to work overtime.
That's right.
Oh, well, let's see if I can get my camera to cooperate. All right, trying to figure out where I need this, what part of the world I need to be in to make this work. Oh, Lordy.
So where you been diving, Cortland?
I just came back from I did a scientific diving course in Honduras, and then
Oh,
from there I went directly to Benin, Africa. But they canceled the diving because the waters were too rough. The ministers felt like the waters were too rough, so
mhm.
we didn't dive. But
That's terrible.
that weekend Honduras was something else. I was really proud of that. The
So
students
you
grew a lot. They did their thing. They came up on their skills. I was really proud of
so you're a scientific diver?
them. Instructor.
Oh, that was okay.
He
Awesome.
is everything, John. You should know that by now.
Yeah, I kind of know that. Yeah.
Not everything.
Well, you're all everything to me.
It went so well. They asked us when we were coming back. I already booked. Said I was booking dates for next year because I know it's going to fill, and we're going to do it again.
How many
We
folks did you have?
we had eight students, and it was really helpful because two of the students were dive master candidates, and one of them was an instructor. So, like, right when I needed some extra backup, and I actually did, I did, get some backup. I had another instructor, and at the last minute, he had to work, and I ain't beefing with that because work takes precedence over volunteer stuff. But we were blessed to have um, two of the DM candidates and another dive pro amongst us. So like right when I needed them, they really came through.
Where in Honduras were you?
We were in Utila.
Oh, wow. Okay.
As a matter of fact, we ran into Vernon and Dee while we were on the trip. All of us were standing in line at the same time at the
Wow. Wow.
what do you call it, the immigration, I think, counter that,
Okay. Right. Right.
yeah. And we're like, we all going. They were like, we going to Roatan. We going to Utila. So we running into nabs people all over the world.
That is crazy.
Let me
Mhm.
tell you, the first time that we went to Utila, we rented the entire boat.
Yeah,
And when we got off the little plane and we were walking down to the dock, was
yeah,
all these black people from UAS, and we dragging all of this equipment. People started running out of the stores and their houses, and
yeah.
and they were like, just looking like this, like that. And, like, who are these people and where are they going?
Mm.
When we got to the boat, the crew was so flabbergasted. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ruthie Browning. I am the unofficial deputy safety officer for NAS because no such position exists except that Cortland named me that. Uh, I got certified in 2006. I'm a member of the Underwater Adventure Seekers in Washington, D.C. I got into scuba diving because I had lots of friends who were scuba divers. But my two best friends were Kimberly Partlow and Arthur Miller, both of whom have gone on to glory, unfortunately, and they have left me behind to carry on. I joined Aquacore about 5 years ago, I believe, because I wanted something new and different to do, and I wanted to be able to help where needed once I stopped doing things like being summit chairperson for all of these summits. And so this was a way to keep giving back. So here I am. So today I wanted to talk about I've forgotten what I was supposed to be talking about. What am I talking about today?
I think it's
Oh,
dive
dive boat
etiquette.
etiquette, dive boat etiquette, and some of the myths of diving. So, this probably came about because Cortland is always fussing on the boat about what are we doing and how we board boats and everything like that. So one of the first things I will say is that if you're going to go diving, and this is kind of like outside of NABS, then the first thing you should do is communicate with the dive center. Ask questions before you get to where you're going. You know, like, do you have rental gear? Do I need to bring my own gear? Is my gear going to be on the boat, or do I need to pick up my gear from the shop? Things like will you have food and snacks on the boat, and how long is a normal dive for your area. So that's the first thing, is kind of communicate with the dive center or the charter boat if you're going out on a charter. And then you want to know what to bring. Do your planning ahead of time. Don't bring anything that you're not needed or anything that you can get from the boat, because they generally have stuff on board that you can use, but you know what kind of dive you're going to go on because you've already communicated with the dive center. So don't bring anything that the boat has. Don't bring uh, big cameras and laptop computers and hard side cases and things like that if you know that you're going to be on a smaller boat and that the boat is going to have 30 people on it.
Mm.
And if you require a specific food, if you're vegan, vegetarian, or allergic to things, make sure that you bring your own food and snacks. And if you drink something in particular, for instance, I'm finding that in my old age now, I'm getting dehydrated a lot faster nowadays. So now I've started with bringing the liquid IV little packets with me, and two bottles of water with the reusable, refillable bottles. So, because those little cone cups, I can never get enough water in those little cone cups. And I had a real bad incident in Cozumel with dehydration that got me put into the um, hyperbaric chamber. So now I'm really, really conscious about bringing stuff and planning ahead and bringing stuff that I need. Always arrive at the dock in plenty of time so that you're not rushing. Uh, Make sure that you confirm with the boat or the charter company, did you tell me that I need to be at the dock at 8:30? Or did you mean that the boat departs at 8:30? Those are two different things. Make sure that you have a clear understanding of what the time is. Be very clear on that, because if the boat departs at 8:30 and you're arriving at 8:30, you may be standing on that dock with your gear and bye-bye. Yes, John. Okay. So the boat is docked and you're ready to hop on board. Yay, yippee ki Hold up. Wait a minute. Not so fast. When do you board the boat? This is a participatory session, so somebody can answer that. Somebody take yourself off mute and tell me, when do you board the boat?
When they tell you to.
Exactly. You don't get on that captain's boat until the captain says you can get on his boat. That is his boat, not your boat, and you do not get on his boat until you have permission to board. But now that you have permission, get on board and start to unpack your gear. Try the bottom to top stacking process. Um, the fins, the pocket shorts. If you wear those big black shorts that Cortland and somebody else wears that look like it's got 14 million pockets on it, and your wetsuit, try to stack your stuff up in the order in which you're going to put it on. Then you need to have somewhere to put that gear bag. Now, I have been on boats, and some people have gotten on boats with gear bags that look like that they need to be in the belly of a plane as checked baggage. So if your gear bag doesn't fit up under the bench, it probably shouldn't be on that boat. And the boat is not a check bag receptacle, so don't drag all of that stuff onto the boat. The boat is already crowded. There's very little space anyway, so those huge bags have no place on the boat. If it doesn't fit up under the bench, you probably shouldn't bring it at all. So a couple of years, well, many years ago, I adopted a way of getting my gear on board. I literally wear my BCD to the boat. I wear my BCD because I have a jacket style. It's easier. I wear my BCD. I put my regulator around my neck and I put my fins on my arm. And so the only thing I'm literally carrying to the boat is a little dry bag that has a towel, maybe some batteries, and my flashlight. I'm not suggesting that other people need to do that, but that's just the way that I do it because I'm very conscious of space, number one. And the other thing is that I don't want to have a whole bunch of stuff that I may leave behind on the boat um, to have to go back and retrieve later. So now that you're on the boat and you got your gear together, where do you put the stuff that needs to stay dry? A little dry bag or a big dry bag because it's pliable and foldable. So you can put anything, if you have towel, if you bring a towel, if you have, some people like to bring a set of dry clothes. If you need a set of dry clothes, you put that in the dry bag. If you have a camera or that's not the underwater camera to snap some photos, and it's not in the camera water bucket, something like that, put all of that in your dry bag, fold it down, and put it where the crew tells you to put it. A lot of times it's under that same bench. Sometimes it's down in the hole. So ask the crew where you should put your dry items. And don't forget, space is limited. So don't bring a whole tuxedo and dress shoes on the boat because you're not going to have any space for that. So after you've done all of that, stow and secure. Bungee your tank. Make sure that your tank is bungeed and secure. A lot of times, it's not our fault that those tanks fall over because some of those bungee cords have seen better days. If your cord is loose or the the tank is shaking, if the boat is going and the tank is rocking, call that to the attention of the crew so that they can make an adjustment, either move you to another space, or I don't know what those handles are that you pull up that holds the tank. I don't know what they're called. Or, sometimes they're broken, they're not secure, they need to be screwed. There's something needs to happen with that. So if you need some help to make sure that your tank is secure, get some help. Because if your tank falls over and it falls over and breaks somebody's mask, guess what? You get to go diving with their mask and you get to sit on the boat. So so they're still gonna go diving, but you probably aren't. So now we're underway. This is I don't know how to say this nicely. Okay, as nicely as I can say is this is Cortland's pet peeve. Listen to crew instructions. Don't talk. Don't fiddle with your gear. Don't walk around. Don't go from place to place. Pay attention to the crew when they are talking. I have been as guilty as anybody else because, first of all, I'm old and things occur to me in transit. And when things occur to me, I usually act on it at that moment because in about 2 more seconds, I will have forgotten. I have practiced a lot of being still and being quiet when the crew is given instructions. Pay attention to the dive site briefing and any specific procedures, such as, do we wait on the surface? Do we hold on to the tagline? Do we descend immediately and meet on the bottom? All of those things are very important. So if you're fiddling and piddling and moving about, then you miss that information. And then when we get off the boat, you're flailing around in the water, not knowing where to go and what to do. So make sure that you pay attention to the crew instructions. Be ready. Most of the time we get 5 or 10 minutes lead time to start getting into our gear. Get your gear together. Be ready. So when the crew announces suit up, suit up. Don't start having conversations with your neighbors. Don't start running around trying to get water. Don't say, "Oh, somebody put my camera in the camera box." All of that should have been done before now. Be ready to jump. Now, in general, no crew is going to rush you off the boat. They don't rush you off the boat. They don't say, if you're not ready in the next 2 seconds, we're going to move on and you're just going to sit here on the boat until we get back. Well, that's usually not the case. But think about what happens if we're doing a drift dive and you're not ready to get off at the time that they say get off. That means the boat has to go out, circle, and come back, and so that you can get off. But if it's an immediate descent, then you have to find the group. So there's all kinds of issues with not being ready to make that jump. So be ready. Then you're going to go on this wonderful, beautiful dive. And then we're going to get back on the boat. And then we're going to head home. Get your gear packed up. You should, whatever you have stowed, find that stuff under that bench. Get your dry bag out of the hole. If you need to change clothes, just tell everybody to close their eyes and go ahead and do whatever it is that you need to do. And be ready to leave the site. Now, in some cases, some people don't like to pack up their stuff when the boat is moving. It's too much rocking and reeling and carrying on. And they prefer to pack up their stuff once we get back on back to the dock. And that's fine as long as your stuff is out of the way of other people. Don't leave your stuff in the walking path. Generally, it's some kind of U-shaped thing. So don't leave any of your gear out in the path of people so somebody can trip and injure themselves, or the crew has to get by to do whatever it is that they need to do to get that boat docked. Don't leave your stuff in the way of other folks so that you cause an accident. And the other thing, tip your crew. Tip your crew. Try to tip your crew on every dive that you go on, because the crew changes, and some centers have a shared tipping system and others have a boat tipping system. So if the crew changes, if you say, well, I'm gonna tip at the end of the week. Yeah, but Pablo don't work on Friday. Pablo worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You're going to tip on Friday. So Pablo has now missed 4 days worth of tipping for the hard work that he has done. So try to remember to bring your boat tip with you every time you get on the boat, and try to tip at every dive. And I think the going rate now is something like $10 per tank. So anyway, so be conscious of all of these things when you're on the boat. These are some good boat etiquette things to try to remember. And in the end, just be careful and just be conscious that you are sharing a boat with a lot of people. It's generally crowded, and just be conscious of being a good dive buddy on the boat. That's it. Questions, because I have a second part.
Thank you, Ruthie. I really appreciate you. You literally just walked us through from start to finish, getting on the boat at Summit, going through the process, and coming back off. Thank you very much. It's a good reminder for a lot of things, and we do, especially when we go in groups, need to establish how is tipping done, because sometimes we've negotiated, we took care of the tip with people's registration, and sometimes we don't. We need to do a better job of making that clear, at least on the Aquacore side anyway. But to your point, um, we typically tip per tank, and I thank you for all these great reminders.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on boat etiquette? Okay, so one of the things I wanted to cover is I know some of you work with new divers, or you get a lot of questions. Yesterday I was privileged to do 2 presentations at Freedom School, and Freedom School is a children's defense fund program for young people who are in Title IX or underachieving schools. So it's a summer reading program, and I've been working with this program for several years. And so yesterday I did 2 presentations, and I have to say that I had kids in grades K through 3, and then I had kids in grades 4 through 6. And I generally don't work with kids that young, but I have to say that K through 3 group, they asked some of the best questions. They were much more lively and much more engaged. And then I showed them a couple of YouTube videos and some of the under the sea animals, and some kelp and seaweed and plantain and stuff like that. So they were very, very excited about that. But here are some of the myths and some of the questions that they asked as well. And one was that you have to be a good swimmer in order to scuba dive. Well, not really. What you have to be is have some basic swimming school skills, and a basic comfort level with the water. Dr. Jones used to always say, good swimmers make better divers, because when things go wrong on the water, good swimmers tend not to panic. You don't see good SWAT swimmers doing things like throwing their regulator out of their mouths and rushing to the surface just because some little something happened, like your mask flooded, or you hear a little sound because your tank's got some kind of little leak, and you don't panic about those kinds of things. So he is a firm believer that you have to be a decent swimmer. You don't have to be an Olympic swimmer. You just have to be a decent swimmer to be a good scuba diver. Speed and strength and Olympic style swimming is not required, but good physical condition and good physical fitness is a good requirement to be a decent diver. So the second myth is that the sharks are out to get you. Well, not in general. Sharks are likely to swim away from you, but they are capable of doing harm. So you need to stay out of harm's way and not entice them, and not chase them, not try to feel them, not try to interact with them, because they will have a little snack if they want to. But in general, sharks are not out to get you. Sharks are out to get some lunch, but it's not necessarily you. Scuba diving is for the young. Well, I'm a prime example of that's not true. So if you're in pretty good physical and condition and you're mentally able, enjoy scuba diving for as long as you can enjoy it. At some point, all of us are going to hang up our fins, but you have to decide when that is. I think Mr. Banks at UAS was still I think he hung up his fins at 85 or something like that, John. And so he was an excellent diver, and he was just my role model. So every time I say I'm not going, I think I'm getting old enough, I probably should give it up. Uh, I have to think about him, but I have made some adjustments. For instance, I don't try to climb up those ladders with that tank on anymore. I just take it off in the water and send it up. If that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. My knees and my back are just ailing, and but I still enjoy the sport, and as long as I'm physically and mentally able to do it, I'm just going to keep on doing it. Okay, diving is dangerous. Well, it can be. But mostly diving is dangerous because of negligence. We don't take care of our gear. We don't pay attention to the dive briefings. We don't pay attention to the dive sites that we're going to. We don't take refresher courses after we've been out of the water for a long time. And we don't take advanced courses like becoming a rescue diver. So if people are asking you if diving is dangerous, the answer is it can be, but it doesn't have to be. In general, diving is much safer than getting in your car every day. If you're driving, you're in much more danger than you are if you're diving. So another myth is the deeper you go, the better the diving. Well, that's not necessarily true unless there's something down there worth seeing. I have to admit that I had never been to the Spiegel Grove until a couple of years ago, and I went to the Spiegel Grove and I was in awe. I really did enjoy that dive. I did that dive twice with Cortland, and I loved it, because he knows that if they say 100 feet, I'll look at him and say, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And then I go every time. And then I have a good time every time. Even when we were in Grenada and we went to some something that looked like it had a swimming pool in it, and it was a great dive. I enjoyed it, but in general, um, sunlight supports the life, the marine life. So shallow is probably better. Somebody told me that the best diving in the world is about 60 feet because the sunlight can still filter through. The plants can grow. The animals are happy because they have some sunlight. It's better, it's warmer, it's brighter, and you can stay longer because you're not sucking up so much gas. So deep diving is not necessarily the better diving. Another myth is like, it's cold underwater. Well, it can be, it doesn't have to be. I tell people all the time that I'm a cold weather person and I love cold weather because I don't care how cold it gets, I can put something else on. It is the same with diving. If you're cold, then you don't have on the correct exposure suit. Find something that'll keep you warm. There are all kinds of new things, lava core or whatever that newfangled stuff is. Buy some of that. But get whatever you need to get to keep you warm and comfortable in the water. Buy whatever you need. Stay warm if you tend to be cold. I don't tend to be cold and I never wear a wetsuit, but I know people who get cold and they always have a wetsuit. And some people dive in, even in what I think is very warm water, they have on a 5 mil. I almost always carry with me, if I'm leaving the country, a 2 mil jacket, just in the event that I do get a little bit chilly, but usually I don't ever need it. But that's me. You have to be warm for yourself. You don't have to be warm for anybody else. And don't let anybody tell you what you should or should not put on because they don't have to stay warm for you. Okay. The other thing is you run out of air without warning. I don't know of any case. Somebody else can speak to this if they need to. I don't know of any case where you run out of air without warning. Um, there, there has to be some mechanical or technical issue about that I don't know about, that I'm not expert enough to be able to talk about it. Uh, because in general, for me, I think if you're watching your gauges and your computers and the things that help us stay alive and healthy, I don't know how that can happen. So at the end, I'm going to ask you, hold that thought, everybody. And I'm going to let some of the experts, Anthony or Andrea or Cortland, talk about that. I don't know how that happens. Um, Another myth is that, well, I don't know if this is a myth or not. This could be true, and that is scuba diving is expensive. Well, it's just like any other sport. It can be as expensive as you want it to be. Depends on what you're doing. If you're traveling a lot, that can be expensive. That's because airfare is crazy, crazy, and more crazy. I used to ski, and I don't ski anymore because I've fallen and can't get up. Became very real to me. But you don't have to buy a lot of expensive gear. There are affordable options that are out there, and you can try renting until you want to purchase anything. I always go back and quote Dr. Jones because he said, well, if the old equipment didn't work as well as the new stuff does, then everybody be dead. So his position was buy whatever you want to buy, but the old stuff is just as good as the new stuff for diving. Except, you can't have dry rot and you have to have things serviced. So he used to say the only reason people buy new stuff is because it's new stuff and they want some new stuff. So it can be as expensive or as inexpensive as you want it to be. And diving will damage the environment. Well, that is kind of true if you're not careful. A lot of places we go, they are marine sanctuaries, and they don't allow us to carry knives, and they don't allow us to have gloves on, and they, don't touch things. And so those are things that are detrimental to the environment. People who get down on the bottom and stir up silt, which blocks the sunlight. So, those are very negative things to the environment. But in general, if you're diving, with some good divers, those things don't happen because we're looking out for each other. And if I see somebody getting closer to the bottom, I just tell them to come up a little bit, or do something different, go over here, go over there, so that you're not near a piece of coral. But I have seen some horrendous breakages underwater, and that was not not nice. It was just terrible. And the last thing I want to say is that a lot of people feel that all dive sites are the same. If you've been to one, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. And that is not true at all. If you've seen the same one several times, you have not seen it. You haven't seen all that it has to offer, because dive sites differ. They differ in at different times of the year. The same dive site can be different in terms of whether or not it's early in the spring or late in the fall. Even at different times of the day, the dive site might change because there's sunlight at sometimes you have an overcast sky. The time of the year may make a difference, because schools of fish move at different times of the year. So the dive sites are different. The same dive site is different all the time, because you never see the same thing twice most of the time. That pretty little seahorse that I saw when we were in St. Lucia, that I was so busy trying to get Andrea to get a photo of, and she was too far away from me. I have never seen a seahorse uh, again since then. And it was the prettiest yellow thing I've ever seen. And I think one person got a photo of it. But I could probably go to that dive site right now, and I would never see that seahorse again. So there are a lot of myths about diving, and if you're around kids, especially, they're going to ask all of these kinds of questions. So we need to be prepared to give them some very good answers about some of the myths of diving. Of course, the first thing everybody always wants to know, do you ever see a shark? Well, yeah, but I don't bother them. They don't bother me. But we need to be very careful how we answer those questions, because one of the things that we're all about is recruiting people into diving, so that we don't want to talk about things that will scare people off. And that's it. Anybody have any questions? I know y'all saw my husband running around. He's always busy.
That was an excellent presentation, Ruthie. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ruthie.
Yeah, that was great, Ruthie. That was great.
I'm glad you brought in the questions from, like a real spot, like you went out to the young people and these are some of the things that they were asking. Because, a lot of us get asked stuff like that all the time, but thanks for bringing it into the space.
Anything else?
But I want to talk about the question you wanted us to come back to for later.
Right.
Yeah.
That question was about
unexpectedly
running out of air without warning.
Right. The only thing I can think of is if your SPG failed and you weren't aware and weren't watching your pressure the entire dive, that could be. And if it's stuck in one spot, like say you started diving at 3,000 and it never moved, that would be alarming to me and unexpected.
Oh, okay.
That's the only thing I can think of because otherwise I can't imagine any of that happening.
I can't either. And then if I started at 3,000 and I've been underwater for 15 minutes and that gauge hadn't moved,
Thank you. Yes.
then that would be so alarming to me that I would go to my buddy and I was like, "How much air do you have?" And if they tell me they got 1,900 or something, and I'm still sitting out there looking at 3,000, I say, "Oh no, we're done. This dive is over."
Thank you. Yep. Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments?
I got one. Yeah, I was at DWP, and my buddy was God rest his soul, Bruce Humphreys, and we were taxed. We were loaded with work, focused on measuring and all that stuff that we have uh, underwater. And I swear I thought I was out of air, but you before you get out of air, you get low on air. You can feel resistance, and I notified him right away. So and we shared air. We gathered all of our gear together and got back on the boat. We were only at 25 feet, so we didn't have to do a safety stop. But when I got back on the boat, I wasn't out of air, but I was low. I still had air in my tank. So I'm just saying that you, I did get a warning before I was out. You get a resistance, and that was a warning. So
Okay.
Well,
so
that reminds me, Ruthie, when we were in Cozumel and I turned my air on, walked into the water, did my entry. I get to about, I don't know, 20 feet and realize I can't breathe anymore. And
Right. I
remember that?
remember that.
The dive master turned my air off. The my dive buddy was Alton and he'd already gone down. So I was like, we always that's how we managed and worked with each other or dive with each other. And there was another diver near me, and I signaled to her that I did the signal, I am out. I did the cut across my throat out of my air. She looked at me and she was like, huh? She did that little run sign and then swam away. I think she went to go get the dive master. In the meantime, I'm thinking to myself, wow, my mom's going to be carrying me home in a box on the bottom of the plane. I cannot die right now. So I remembered, and then all the training that I have had at that point came back to me. But I understand now why students try to take their regular out because they want to get air, but they're underwater. I almost did that. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. So I'm like, okay, Andrea, keep your reg in, stay cool. I slowly went up to the surface. Actually, I dropped my weights first, and then I went up, got it to the surface. By that time, the boat was gone because we were doing drift diving, and he was gone. So I'm like, okay, well, I know what's happened. I know I had a full tank. So I reach around, turn my air back on, collect myself, and I do another descent. I don't know how I got down because I didn't have my
I was
weight.
going to ask you, how did you descend if you had dropped your weights?
I made it back down. I exhaled pretty good. I don't use that much weight anyway, so it's like not that difficult, but it was still I had to get back down. And as I was going down, the dive master had my weights and he gave them back to me when on the dive. I will say that when I got off the boat, first, I went to the other diver who didn't know what that out of air signal meant and had to school her real fast. And then I went off, unfortunately, on the captain and the dive master because she should never have touched my gear like that and turned my air off. I could have died. But that was quite unexpected. But thankfully, my training kicked in and I was able to actually do the dive. I calmed myself down and remembered what I was supposed to do, and did my dive. But so that makes me, I think you went over this earlier about reviewing signals with your dive buddy, making sure everyone understands what these signs or agree what they mean. Um, and yeah, so that was pretty unexpected.
You know what, Cortland? Now that we're talking about that, I'm um I was looking online a couple of days ago, and one of the things I ran across was, the nitrox chart, how far down you can go on the nitrox chart. And I looked at the C signs, like what does this mean? Because I have seen dive masters say, look at this, and people look at them like, what the heck is he talking about? So I'm wondering if we need to adopt something about going over hand signals right before or after the dive briefing on the boats, that we need to just put that in our repertoire.
Buddy checks, buddy should at the very least be doing
There,
that.
we made sure we did buddy checks and the go over hand signals.
Mhm.
Now, those are the basic ones. I know that's what we do. But the extended ones, I think what you're talking about is like for the local area. Like
Mhm.
when they say they're pointing out a certain fish, or the dive masters want us to pay attention to something that they see over there. For sure, we should go ahead and go through that. But even right now, part of the buddy check is for them to go over hand signals.
Yeah, but I'm sure people don't do it. So I'm just saying we need to remind people to make sure that they review the hand signals.
Yeah, I agree. And I know on the boats that I was on, I made sure that that happened. I'm
Mhm.
sure Leon made sure that it happened. That was one of the things that we put out there. Um, the the thing I think that we could do better is to slow it down instead of, hey, make sure you go do your buddy check and do your hand signals, that we actually get a good look, especially on those first earlier dives, that people are actually doing it. Just check in with the buddy teams. You go over your hand signals, you do your BRAF, you do all of this. Yes.
I
Okay.
But
think we can also do that and then also ask. Had to do this before. Ask the dive master, remind me again, what's the signal for X, Y, and Z? Because someone was talking about
yes,
it.
you're
But
right, because
ask
they
them
will
again.
ask.
And also, if you get them doing signals, they'll start telling you about the local things, like you were saying before, like what is your signal for octopus or seahorse or whatever. Then that'll get them thinking of sharing other signals. So that's
Right.
very helpful. But I would ask them again because somebody missed it.
Yeah, yeah. Especially in our age group, it's better if we had repetition. So
Absolutely.
going over it once might not be the thing. If we go over it several times, that might be the practice that we need to step into.
That's true.
Agreed.
Well, I don't have anything else. I thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Cortland.
Thank you, Ruthie, um, Deputy Safety Officer. I appreciate you all the way around. And I know I pay you a lot for what you do. So you just keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great day. Have a great weekend. As hot as Hades in Charlotte. We're in triple digit
Ooh,
temperatures today with uh what do you call it? Heat index of about 110 for the next 3-4 days. So
Good Lord.
everybody stay safe.
say cool. Well done,
Yeah.
Ruthie. Thank
Be
you for
safe.
sharing.
All righty. Have a great day.
Y'all take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Take care, everybody.